Kia ora whānau, welcome back. Wellness Wednesday with me. I'm Troy from Black Dog Survivors and Support Riders, and welcome to the Black Dog Lounge. Tonight we're finishing our mini-series exploring bipolar disorder, and we're going to do that by sort of explaining or exploring the four main forms of the bipolar spectrum. And then right towards the end, we're going to touch a little bit on psychoses and why it's really important that we keep a very close eye on our bipolar symptoms so that they don't turn into psychotic episodes. And then right at the very end, a quick reminder of some of the things you can do if you're concerned about your mental health and well-being, or the mental health and well-being of a loved one. So grab yourself a coffee and we'll see you back here really soon. Right, we're back. Kia ora whānau. I've got my coffee. I know it's late, but I really need to get this done. As this is our last part in the exploration of bipolar disorder, we're going to explore the bipolar spectrum and the four forms of bipolar within the spectrum. And we're starting off with bipolar 1 disorder, and a person with bipolar 1 has at least one manic episode lasting approximately a week, and they have multiple episodes of depression, major depression, and without treatment those episodes of depression and mania usually repeat over time. Now the unfortunate thing in all of this is that the periods of depression usually outnumber the periods of mania by about 3 to 1. However, in bipolar 2, the mania is a milder form of mania, and that's quite often referred to as hypomania. And hypomania lasts oftentimes for several days, if not longer. And the periods of depression are usually quite significant. And the really sad thing is the periods of depression for people with bipolar 2 outnumber the manic periods by about 40 to 1. Bugger that. Now, the challenge in diagnosing bipolar 1 and bipolar 2 is that the hypomania in bipolar 2 is very mild and can often be mistaken as just normal, just okay, just being, there's nothing wrong, I'm struggling with depression, doctor. So there's some real challenges with bipolar 2 and the diagnoses of bipolar 2, and quite often it's misdiagnosed, as I'm sure you can understand. It's misdiagnosed as just depression or unipolar depression. So moving on, there's also within the bipolar spectrum there's what's called bipolar disorder not otherwise specified. And people who are diagnosed with this particular form of bipolar, they have symptoms of mania or hypomania that are really too few in number and too short in duration to meet the currently accepted definitions within the psychoscientific or medical field. So yeah, it's kind of a real challenging one, that one. And lastly, in the bipolar spectrum, there's what's called cyclothymic disorder, and sometimes unofficially called bipolar 3. And a person has hypomanias, as in bipolar 2, that alternate frequently with very brief periods of depression. And when present, though the symptoms of depression, they also don't last long enough and involve enough symptoms to define a major depression as a sort of a full-blown syndrome. So sometimes I know myself, I've experienced periods of cyclothymic disarray where in the course of one day I can go from periods of mild elevation through to periods of mild depression and back again. And I used to call that rapid cycling without even knowing that it was actually a whole nother sort of form of bipolar disorder. So that's the 4 forms of bipolar disorder. Okay, so now we're on to psychoses. Now, I'm just going to speak from a personal perspective, and I've experienced mania-induced psychoses, which was a complete detachment from reality, and very, very delusional state in which I wasn't really too aware of what was real within my world and what wasn't, and it's a very, very scary thing to experience. And I've also experienced drug-induced psychoses, at the height of my addiction, or the lows of my addiction, as it were. I would quite often go into a state of drug-induced psychoses, and both periods of psychoses is incredibly scary to experience firsthand, and it's the sort of experience that I don't wish on not one person. However, it is a reality. Now, there's also other forms of psychoses, and the I suppose psychosis itself really sorry, I'm just dissociating with what's up here versus what I need to get out here. Psychosis really deserves its own little segment, its own little episode, because the prevalence of drug-induced psychoses these days, particularly in our young people who are experimenting with cannabis, plus also synthetic cannabis, and also we have some older people who chuffing the pee. Psychosis is becoming a much more common experience within our community. So I think I'll save a bit more of an in-depth look at psychoses for its own episode towards the end of this entire series, where we're exploring common mental health challenges in New Zealand. So that's all I'm going to say on psychosis. I don't wish it on anyone. It is a horrible thing to experience, and even worse for our loved ones to witness a person in a full-blown state of either mania-induced psychoses or drug-induced psychoses. So we'll explore that a little bit later on in this whole series. More coffee. Right, so to wrap everything up, a quick reminder on what you can do if you're concerned about your mental health and well-being, or the mental health and well-being of a loved one. Please seek professional advice. I am not a doctor, I'm not a medical person, I'm just somebody who loves motorcycling and who happens to have 38 years lived experience with bipolar disorder. I'm also a person who has 27 years lived experience as an active addict in our community. So all I know about is myself and my experience. It's really, really important that you don't fuck around. You go and get some professional help as soon as you possibly can. Don't leave it. It's not worth it. Trust me on that. But there are some other things that you can do in the meantime. Look after your tinana. Okay, feed your body the best way that you can. Feeding your body is going to provide the right fuel for your brain so that it can function at its very best. Get enough sleep. Rest and relaxation is really, really important in helping us manage our recurring symptoms of our mental health challenges. So getting rest and being able to relax is really, really important. Spend time with family and friends. Find somebody who you can share your experiences with, and hopefully in a non-judgmental sort of environment. Join a support group, that sort of thing. Talking therapy really, really does help in a lot of cases. And just remember, you're not alone. There's a lot of us out there who experience mental health challenges, who have experienced drug addiction and the challenges faced by those with substance abuse issues. There's a lot of us out there, a lot of us in recovery, and we're here to help, we're here to listen, non-judgmentally. There's a range of mental health services up and down the country that are fully funded to help you in your recovery journey, so reach out, but your first protocol is usually your GP. Anyway, that's it for today. Hope you enjoyed the mini-series as much as I've enjoyed this cup of coffee, and don't forget to drop a comment in the comments box below. Hit that like button if you so desire, and I'm looking forward to seeing you next time on Wellness Wednesday with me. I have been Troy, this has been the Black Dog Lounge. You are still fantastic, and we'll catch you next time. Cheers.